So let's take a look at the First Continental Congress. And the First Continental Congress meets basically as a direct result of the Intolerable Acts that took place earlier in 1774. So 12 of the 13 colonies meet starting September 5th, 1774, and they meet through October 26th, 1774. So about 6 weeks or so, 7 weeks, and they gather in Philadelphia at Carpenter's Hall in 1774. And as we said, it's a response to the Intolerable Acts, and there's really there's not a clear cut exactly, here's what we've come to accomplish. There was two groups really, the Radicals with the more famous, more well-known founders like Patrick Henry, Samuel Adams, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and their goal really is just simply, it's almost a, you can see these are the ones that are going to be leading the charge in this idea of independence. They want to make a declaration of the rights of colonies and begin preparing an alternative government, kind of having each of these colonies set up alternative governments, some kind of grand council similar to what maybe the Albany Plan of Union might have looked like, minus some parts of that plan. And so they're really preparing to make a break, be prepared, have some kind of government in place that is separate from the British Crown and Parliament. The Conservatives, Joseph Galloway, John Dickinson, who is definitely opposed to the way that the British have been treating the colonies, has written eloquently about the rights of the colonists, but still is not prepared to take those next steps. John Jay, who becomes the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and is very involved in New York politics. Edward Rutledge from South Carolina. So all these guys, their idea is simply still reconciliation, basically, is the best way to describe it. Their goal is to reconcile with Parliament, reconcile with the King, and simply try to get Parliament to rescind the unacceptable acts. And they're the ones that went out, because as we'll see in the next slide, they are the ones that have that's the course of action that the First Continental Congress takes. So the results of the First Continental Congress, there's really fourfold here. One is the continuation of the boycott of British goods. But the thing that is interesting about this is they say, not only are we going to continue this boycott, but we're going to kind of step up our efforts to ensure that this boycott people aren't importing goods. So they have these committees of safety, and these committees now also have the additional job of kind of enforcing the boycott through intimidation, through refusing, having dock workers refuse to unload British goods and things like that. And so this isn't necessarily within and some of their activities aren't even necessarily legal. They're extra legal activities that would, intimidation and actual outright violence in some cases. Certainly not legal, but this is the way that they are going about trying to make sure that goods aren't, British goods aren't imported. And then they take it even a step further and say, and if this continues, if we can't get these intolerable acts taken back and repealed, then the next step in a year from now, we're going to stop exporting our goods, sending our goods to our raw materials to the British. And so they've kind of got a progression set in place. The other thing they do is begin telling the colonies, hey, keep training your militias. If you haven't been, you need to make sure you start taking that practice seriously and begin setting up militias and preparing for the possibility of war. And then finally, they say, let's see how this goes. Let's see if they respond, and let's prepare to meet again in May of 1775. Let's see what happens over the next several months. Well, what's going to happen over the next several months is going to ultimately lead to war. So it's a good thing they're ready to meet and already preparing to meet, because it's going to be necessary.